Okay, we're going to go over comparing and ordering positive rational numbers. What we do not finish or run out of time for, the rest will be homework. However, I wanted to get you started because I wanted to go over a couple of tricks. I call them tricks, but tricks that I use in class that really help me figure these out. So first of all, I'm having to compare fractions greater than, less than, or equal to. Now, I know many people confuse the greater than symbol and the less than symbol. So first of all, if I think about a number line, okay, so now when I look, so I'm going to use that number line to help me. So when I look at my symbols, I like to draw a line coming out of the center. If I look at that, which direction is it pointing? Is it pointing to the left or pointing to the right? Well, it's pointing to the left. Therefore, as I move left on a number line, I'm getting smaller. So that means this symbol right here is a less than sign. You also see it right here at the end of your number line. And then knowing that, if I do the same thing with my other symbol, and I draw a line coming out of it, it's pointing to the right. Therefore, it is greater than, because we get bigger as I move to the right. And if I look, right there is that symbol. So on your paper, when you see put the correct symbol, what I would do is draw a line through it, just like that. So now when I look at it, I know this side means less and this side means greater. And therefore, less than, greater than. So now when I come over here and I compare fractions, now I could go through and make an EFT for both and solve it that way. So I could make 3/4 and make an EFT until I get to the same denominator as 3/5. However, for me, I find that a lot more difficult, a lot longer. I would prefer just changing these into decimals right away. So right here, if I had 3/4, well, anytime I see a denominator of 4, I think quarters. So if I had 3 out of 4 quarters, because 4 quarters is one whole dollar, so 3 out of 4 would be 75 cents. And 3/5, in the previous video, I said if I have 10 fingers on my hand, I'm gonna hold up 3 out of 5 on both, slide them together, and I have 6 out of 10 total fingers. So I know that's going to be equal to 6/10, which is 0.6, and I can add a 0 behind it as a placeholder. And there I did that because this has 2 numbers behind the decimal, so this needs 2 numbers behind the decimal. Now, if I compare the two, 75 is bigger than 60, therefore 3/4 is greater than, remember, greater than 3/5. So I'm gonna go to number 2 and I'm gonna do the same thing. Now this is already a decimal, so let's focus on this one. So 3 7/10. Well, I can write 7/10 as 3.7. Now if I compare them, 3.6 is smaller than 3.7, therefore it is less than. Now, you should be following along in everything that I'm doing, you should be doing. If you do not have this work that I have, your problem will be counted wrong. Even if you have the correct symbol, no work, no credit. So you must show work on every one of these problems. Show me something. So number 3, this is already a decimal, so let's turn this into a decimal. Again, I have a denominator of 4, so immediately you should think quarters. So if I have 1 out of 4 quarters, 1/4 is 25 cents. Now if I compare 26 and 25, 26 is bigger, therefore we need to put greater than. Number 4, this is a decimal, this is a percent. Now in the previous video, I said we have to change percents every single time to a fraction or to a decimal. So 2 ways I can do it. I can say, well, percent is out of 100, so 75 hundredths. However, this is a decimal, so we can write it as a decimal, 0.75, because this is the hundredth spot right there. So 75 hundredths. Or, recall from last unit, D to P. So percent to decimal means 2 times to the left. So 1, 2, and again, 0.75. And if I look at it, 55 is smaller than 75, therefore it is less than. Number 5. Now, if you notice in this one, they're all different. I have fractions, I have decimals, and I have percents. You must change it to look the same way for every single one of them. You have to convert all of them. So I find it personally easier to change everything to a decimal because it's pretty easy to compare decimals. So 7/10, we just rewrite as a decimal, 7/10. This one's already a decimal. I'm gonna go ahead and drop it down anyway. Now 5/4. If I look at it, 5/4 is improper. So we know that all fractions are division problems. And then the movie with all of the emotions in the brain, it's called Inside Out. So inside out. So I'm going to divide inside out. So 4 goes into 5 one time. And 1 times 4 is 4, and I subtract and I get 1. And I'm trying to change them all to a decimal. So I'm going to add a decimal and a 0 and keep going. So now 4 goes into 10 2 times. 2 times 4 is 8. And I get 2. And I'm going to bring down another decimal or another 0. 4 goes into 25. So 5/4 is equivalent to 1.25. And then if I look at 100%, remember D to P. So a percent as a decimal, I need to move to the left 2 times. So 1, 2. Therefore, 100% is the same thing as just saying 1 whole. And then 1 and 1/2, you should know that 1/2 is 0.5, so 1.5. Now, if I wanted to order them from greatest to least, we need to start with the biggest number. Now, what I would suggest is these have 2 numbers behind the decimal, so let's make them all have 2 numbers. And the biggest one that they have is this one, so that one's going to come first. However, we're going to write the original form of it. Then would be 1.25, which is 5/4, and so on. And please make sure that you circle or box your answers every time. It just makes it much, much easier to find and to do this. Now, I am going to skip number 6. That is for you to go back and do. Do not forget to go back and do this. I'm going to move on to number 7. And then I'm gonna let y'all work on this for the remainder of class. Every problem that I have not done, I have done one similar to it already. So please make sure that you have taken good notes and you can look back. So again, I'm gonna skip number 6 for right now. You're gonna go back and do that in a minute. Number 7 says 4 students were asked to choose a mixed number between 1 and 2. The number each student chose is in the table. Which student or which list shows the name of the students in order from greatest value to the least value? So it's wanting greatest to least. So if I look up here, the first thing I notice is that all the whole numbers are the same. When all the whole numbers are the same, just pretend they aren't even there, because I don't need them. Because 1, it's multiple choice, but they're all the same, so it doesn't really matter. But with the remainder, I need to change those decimal pieces into, change everything into a decimal piece now. So 1/2, we should know is 0.5. This was already a decimal, so I'm just gonna copy it down. 2/5, well, if I do my hands trick, again, hold up 2 fingers on each hand, slide them together, and now I have 4 out of 10 fingers. So 2/5 is equal to 4/10, which is 0.4. And this was already a decimal. So to help order, I'm going to put a placeholder so they all have the same amount. So now all I have to do is look at the numbers behind the decimal, looking for greatest to least. So the greatest one would be 55. So I know Stuart has to be first. Well, that's not Stuart, that's not Stuart, that worked and that worked. So I know these 2 are not my answer. Then would come Kathy, Kathy, not Kathy, I'm done. So you have to make sure, change everything to look the exact same way, and then you can compare and order them. So for the remainder of class, I want you to work on this. What is not finished will be homework. So please make sure that you are working diligently and that you finish, or at least finish it tonight for homework. You will be grading this tomorrow in class. You will be turning this in. So please make sure it's finished and you get it turned in so you do not get a 0 in the grade book.